My name is Elise. I took her class because I needed an elective. Something easy, something harmless, something that wouldn't take much of my attention. At least, that's what I thought. Then Professor Arden walked into the lecture hall. She moved with the kind of quiet confidence that makes a room fall still without anyone understanding why. Sharp, thoughtful eyes behind soft glasses, dark hair pulled into a loose knot, a voice low and warm, carrying through the hall like she wasn't trying to be heard. She just was. The first time she looked at me, really looked, it felt like a spotlight had clicked on inside my chest. I tried to ignore it. I told myself she was simply doing what professors do, scanning the room, seeing the students. But something in her gaze lingered half a second too long, curious, kind, grounded. After class, I stayed behind, trying to pack my bag slowly enough to avoid bumping into the river of students leaving. She was gathering her notes, placing them neatly into her briefcase. When she looked up, she smiled. "New student?" she asked. "First time taking one of your courses," I said, hoping my voice didn't sound as shaky as my hands felt. "Well," she said, leaning against the desk, "I'm glad you're here." Her words were simple, but the way she said them, soft, direct, warm, made my heartbeat skip in a way I've never felt in any classroom. The days passed, and I found myself arriving early, just to watch the way she prepared the room, adjusting the projector, placing a mug of tea on the desk, humming quietly when she thought no one was listening. She noticed me more than I expected. When she asked questions, she always glanced my way first. When she laughed at a comment, her eyes flicked toward mine. When she explained something complicated, she stepped closer to my row. Not too close, never inappropriate, just enough that I could feel her presence like a warm, steady light. One afternoon after class, I stopped her with a question about the assignment. She approached me, standing beside my desk rather than towering above it. "You understand this better than you think," she said softly. Her voice was warm enough to melt the air between us. I nodded, hoping she couldn't hear the wild rhythm under my ribs. When she walked away, the faint scent of her perfume, something subtle, floral, thoughtful, lingered in the space she left behind. And that was the moment I knew. Whatever this was, it wasn't harmless anymore. Something inside me had quietly shifted, and there was no undoing it. A week later, the university closed early for a storm. Most students ran for the exits, but I stayed behind to finish a few notes. The halls echoed with emptiness, the lights dimmed to half power. I didn't expect her to still be there. When I walked past her office, the door was cracked open. Warm lamplight spilled into the hallway, and her silhouette was bent over papers, glasses tilted slightly downward. She looked up when she heard my footsteps. "Elise," she said softly. "You're still here?" "Storm caught me," I said, shrugging. I was waiting it out. She stood, moving toward the doorway. "Come in for a moment if you want. It's quieter in here." I hesitated, not because I didn't want to, but because I wanted to too much. But I stepped inside. Her office felt like a different world. Books stacked everywhere, soft yellow light from a single desk lamp, a plant leaning lazily toward the window. It smelled faintly of tea and paper. She gestured toward a chair. "You can stay until the rain slows." I sat. My pulse quickened. She leaned back against her desk, crossing her arms loosely, watching me with that same patient curiosity. "You seem distracted lately," she said gently. "Not in a bad way, just thoughtful." Heat rose in my cheeks. "I guess I've had a lot on my mind." She nodded slowly. "Life gets heavy sometimes." Her words were simple, but the way she looked at me made them feel like a confession. The rain deepened, tapping softly against the window. She moved closer, sitting on the edge of the desk near me. Not inappropriate, just human, present, warm. "Can I ask you something?" she said, lowering her voice. "Yes. When I'm lecturing," she paused, searching my eyes, "do you look at me because you're focused or because something else is happening?" My breath caught. She wasn't teasing. She wasn't smirking. She was simply being honest, maybe too honest, in a moment softened by rain and lamplight. I swallowed. "Something else," I whispered. Her exhale was almost silent, but it wasn't disappointment. It was relief. She leaned her elbows on her knees, hands clasped loosely. "I felt something too," she admitted softly, "but I didn't want to project it onto you." Thunder rolled gently outside, distant, low. We sat there, inches apart, the room breathing around us. "I don't want to cross lines," she said, "but I also don't want to pretend I don't see you." Her honesty filled the room like warm light. "We don't have to decide anything now," I whispered. "We just have to tell the truth." She smiled, a small, vulnerable curve of her lips. "The truth," she echoed, "is that I'm glad you stayed through the storm." We didn't touch. We didn't rush. We just sat together, two adults navigating something delicate and real, letting the rain hold our secrets a little longer. And as the storm softened, I realized I hadn't just fallen for her teaching. I had fallen for her, quietly, slowly, beautifully.